LinkedIn live webinars to grow your business. Now, let's get cracking with it. This presentation I have pulled together. It is brand new. It's up to date through probably I spent the last probably 3 weeks putting it together. Now, a lot of my workshops, I tend to repeat a lot of the same information because not a lot changes. However, there is some significant changes that I'm going to be talking to you about today that have come from the 510 plus webinars that we've been consulting on or running ourselves over the last 3 years. Now, what I'd love to know, just out of curiosity more than anything, have you ever ran a webinar to generate sales for your business in the past? So just give me a yes if you have, a no if you haven't. I'm just curious to know kind of what stage you're at. It seems to be a 50-50 split looking at it at the moment. So lots of no's coming in now. So lots of you aren't. So some of the stuff that I'm going to be sharing to you today, if you had never ran one before, will be relatively new and stuff that you can take away and implement into your business straight away. Now, I love them. It's something that I didn't love at the beginning, but I've grown to love them over the last couple of years. And bearing in mind how many people we speak to about these specific ways of generating business, we see lots of people trying and lots of people failing. And what I've noticed is that there's lots of the same reasons why people fail. And as I bring up the 5 reasons now, again, these have changed slightly because, again, as we're speaking to people, we're gathering more and more data. But these 5 most up-to-date reasons we're seeing across a lot of different people right now. And depending on where you're at, you will probably relate to one over the other. Now, the first key reason as to why people fail when it comes to running webinars like this or generating business online is that you're just struggling to engage your ideal client. So you need to build relationships. Now, some of you might be networking in person. Some of you might be utilizing and focusing on social media as your prime lead generation source, right? Both are fine. The combination works well. However, when it comes to getting your ideal clients to communicate with you, to talk with you, to comment on your content, to respond to any promotion that you do, it's tough because this world's getting busier and busier, right? Social media is getting more popular than ever before. And so lots of people are struggling just to generate and gain the attention of their ideal client. Number 2 is that actually what you've got is really good. Like your product and service is pretty good, and it is. You're good at what you do. However, you've exhausted your current audience and aren't growing it fast enough. So you lack consistent traffic at the front end to be able to get enough people aware of what you do to then generate the inquiries. Number 2, it's very, very popular across a lot of people that we speak with. Number 3 is the one I'm going to focus quite a lot on today, and that's the process for conversion. So what we have with the way that we run our webinars is we know number by number what we need to hit to be able to meet our objectives every single month. It's predictable, it's sustainable. And what lots of people do, unfortunately, is they use social media, right? They post, they comment, they send messages, they're active, they think they're doing everything right, but they don't have a process in place that leads somebody from a connection to customer. And therefore, it's guesswork. And that's something that we're really trying to avoid with everything that we do at the Social Selling Suite and Pipeline 44 is give that bit of predictability that you need. So you know that all the hours that you're putting in isn't just going to be a waste, because that's the most frustrating thing for lots of people. So number 3 is that you're using social, but you lack a predictable and sustainable process for conversion. Number 4 is, and this is for the people that are running like webinars right now. If you're not, this won't be relevant to you. But for those of you that are, is that you run workshops and you think you're packing it full of value. Like there's loads of information in there. These people, like they need to have their minds blown with the amount of content in there so we can prove our worth. And then at the end of it, you slap a picture on it, or you maybe don't even do the sale whatsoever because you're a bit nervous and therefore don't make any sales from it. You get feedback like you're really good at what you do, but you don't then generate any sales from it. So that's typically what we see with lots of people that run workshops like this. And then number 5 is that the message, the way in which you're communicating, the things that you're saying when you're trying to sell your products and services, you fail to hit the points that really matter. And what I say matter, what I mean by that is that prospects will be watching you now. If you're posting online right now, people will be watching and digesting the stuff that you're saying. But if you fail to make an impact with the words that you say, and you don't drive that prospect to want to make a change, then unfortunately what's going to happen is you're just going to blend in with everyone else, and they're then going to find somebody else to spend their money with. That's typically what I've seen, is that if I don't get my words right, if I don't have enough impact with the language that I'm using, if I can't drive you to see the need to work with us, then I've failed. And so, with that being said, there should be one of those that probably relates to you more than the other. I'd love to know, out of 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, which one do you most connect with? Which one do you think is holding you back the most when it comes to generating business on social? I'm just going to wait for those to come in because I think there's about a 15-second lag. So we've got a couple of 4s straight away. Kim's a 4 and a 5. Katie's a 2. Okay, so Jan's a 4 and a 5 as well. Good stuff. A few more 2s coming through. Imelda's all 5. So again, now I think there is about a 15-second lag today. So you'll have to bear with me with the chat. There seems to be an absolute massive amount of 3s coming through. So process is something that we all want to hear about today as well, which is great. I'm glad because it's quite a lot of the content today is around the process stuff, because for me, it's one of the most important things. Now, to give you like the agenda of today, I'm going to take you through like a 3-phased approach. So part 1 is going to be focused in on positioning. So there's no point running webinars like this if you're not positioned as someone to be listened to in the first place. So I'm going to be talking to you about how you position yourself. Part 2 is then going to be about the process. So like the really meaty section of what you need to have in place to get it to work. And then part 3 is the presentation structure itself. So what do you need to be putting into presentations like this to really make a difference? Now, I don't spend too much time talking about me in these workshops at all, but the stats are there for you to read. Like, what I can guarantee you is everything that I say is going to be backed up with evidence. I don't just guess. I'm not just someone that talks about stuff that I haven't done. If you want to check it out, if you head to my LinkedIn profile, so if you scan that QR code, that will take you to my LinkedIn profile. Give me a follow. You'll see all of the content I talk about. It's all backed up with evidence of what we've tested in the past, what we've seen work, what we're actually doing right now to be able to grow our own business. As you can see here, I'm running a webinar. Hopefully a couple of you want to work with us. But the rest of you, hopefully you'll find value from it, and then you'll take it away and you might talk about it to other people. So these sorts of strategies are stuff that we're practically applying every single day to drive our own business forward as well. So with that being said, I think it's really important to answer the question of why webinars in 2024? Like, have you ever heard of people saying that webinars are dead? Let me know if you've heard that before in the chat. Webinars are dead. They don't work anymore. Like they're no longer a factor. They shouldn't be a part of a business marketing plan. I've had lots of people say it. I've been running them for 3 years, still doing them now. I'm not a lunatic. There is a reason why we run them, right? They do drive business forward. And when you then connect it to a social media platform like a LinkedIn, like a YouTube, like an Instagram, and you use those as traffic sources, whether you're doing that organically, i.e. not spending money on ads, or whether you're running paid advertising to flood the traffic to them, from there, you can then leverage that traffic to drive into your event. So people actually have a chance to find out what it is that you do. Out of interest, so far this year, we're 25 days in. How many people have you practically firsthand told what it is that you've got to sell? How many people have you told practically? Are you out there every day pounding the phones, or are you kind of using social, sitting back, relaxing, waiting for someone to come to you? Like for us, our whole marketing and sales approach, this whole social selling terminology here is all about taking control of your own lead generation. So for me, if I don't run workshops like this, I have no idea how much business I'm going to generate. It's conversion campaigns like this that give me the data that I need to know that if I have to spend 3 hours a week creating content, that content's actually going to do something for me. And the webinars is probably one of the first reasons why, right? So many people are out there using social media platforms, putting in hours and hours and hours. I mean, I'm just curious, right? For me, I typically spend between 5 to 10 hours a week, like on social media, creating content, engaging. How much time are you spending right now? I don't know if you actually track this at all, but have a guess. How much time are you putting into social media right now to generate some business? Just in the chat box, let me know. Most people, right, are spending at least 4 to 5 hours, like posting content, commenting, building their networks, like whether it is engaging in communities, whatever. They're spending time, but they then don't have anywhere to drive that business to. So it's like you're building up this network and audience, but then you're kind of waiting for it to come to you. And for me, like logically, we all know that that's silly, right? We all know that that's kind of pointless. And so what you want to have is some form of conversion mechanism, whether that's a webinar, whether that's an audit, whether that's a strategy call, that you can actually drive people towards, so you know that that time's going to be worth something. For me, webinars are a great way. Like, I was absolutely terrible at doing this when I first started a few years ago. I'm not bad at them now. Like, we convert consistently off them, right? But that's because we've practiced. That's because we've built and positioned ourselves properly. And we're able to understand that social media is not for selling. Social media is for collecting data, taking people off of the platform so you can then earn the right to promote to them. And that's the stuff I'm going to be talking to you about today. It's just taking people to the next step in your sales process. And what's great with LinkedIn is that it gives you the opportunity to promote your events directly on the platform. So you can see there on the right-hand side, that's my business partner, Sam Raffling. Like, one of the ones that she ran back in 2021. We're yet to beat this, by the way. It's why the image is still there. It's still our top performing LinkedIn event, but 1,021 people declared interest. Now, that isn't that they formally registered on Zoom, right? There's a crossover point between how many people sign up on LinkedIn and sign up on Zoom. Typically, it sits between 30 and 50% of people will move across. But we've generated over the last couple of years 11,500 leads. That is registrations on Zoom for free using these events, right? Coming directly from the LinkedIn event to Zoom, 11,500 people. And I say this in every workshop because it's a very big reminder to us that if you want that sort of traffic from any other platform, typically you have to pay for it. And to be able to pay for that, if you can look here, when we were running our Facebook campaigns, right, it's £9 a lead on average. If you want 11,500 leads, that's over six figures that you're having to fork out to be able to get that data, especially when it's cold traffic as well. Let me relay this, right? Make this even more crucial to you. That's cold traffic. The LinkedIn event is warmer traffic because they follow me already. They're connected to me already. With Facebook, it's cold traffic, unless I'm retargeting on my own profiles, which we do, but that's not where the mass amount of leads come through. If we're ever using paid advertising, it's cold. And so the show-up rate's lower. And so you've got to take all of this into account right now. And this is why so many people are struggling. They don't know this. They don't see this stuff. We're using every marketing channel that we possibly can, and we're seeing where our time is best spent. And that's why I'm trying to shout a little bit louder about it, because this whole process, this webinar campaign, right, is this here. So if you've made it to the webinar, right, today, and you're watching this live, you can see here, you've gone through the webinar opt-in. Everyone remembers the Zoom registration that you signed up to, and now you're at the webinar point. So no matter where you've come from, whether you've come from the email list today, whether you've come from LinkedIn directly, we know exactly, you've been tagged, so we know exactly where you've come from. So we know exactly what's working, what isn't. And this is the stuff that people miss. Like, putting in the data, right, for this stuff takes seconds, doesn't take long. Putting the process in takes a couple of weeks of work. But when you do, suddenly you can be a lot more proactive with the way that you do your marketing. And that's where I want to lead us into the first part of this, because none of it works unless you know how to position yourself as an authority in your space. I don't know whether you know me, you've followed me for a while. I mean, out of interest, for those of you that are here today, is this your first ever workshop of mine that you've attended, or have you attended multiple? I'm just genuinely curious. Is it your first one, or have you attended multiple? So lots of first timers today, which is great. And then the real fans come in, right? Then the multiple. I'm only joking. I've only had a couple of those. Fine. But yeah, so we've got a few people that are attending for a couple of times as well, right? So this stuff is not just about a one hit and then people leave. People do come to a few of them. And that's really great, because what we're building up is, the longer you spend watching me, you feel like you know me more, right? You feel like I know what I'm talking about more. We're building up that know, like, and trust. And you'll have to forgive the typo at the top there where it says there are three things. There's actually two things that we need to look at when it comes to positioning. The first thing is your audience and how to build one. The second thing is your message and how to communicate to them. I'm going to touch on your audience to begin with. So when it comes to building the right audience on LinkedIn or any other platform, by the way, so I also have a YouTube channel that I use. I'm not as active as I should be on it. That's one of my big things for this year, is pushing that platform. But with it, what I'm trying to do is build up the amount of time people are spending consuming our content. Most people, I mean, you have to give me a yes or a no in this, like know how to build a LinkedIn network. Are you currently, here's the question, are you currently building your LinkedIn network every week? As in you are going out there and you're pressing the connect button. Most people are, right? But the people that they're then connecting with are either not active or not interested. And you find yourself banging your head against a brick wall, wondering why no business is coming your way. It's like I've gone from 500 followers to 1,000, 1,000 to 5,000, 5,000 to 10,000. You can see on the right-hand side there, that's my growth curve. I am no influencer, right? I don't have millions of followers. I don't reach millions and millions of people. That would be great if I could, but I don't need to. Like most people just don't know how to connect with the right people. And so what you need to understand is, and this is something that we're going to be talking to you about today, is when it comes to audience growth, it's not just about pressing the connect button. It's just one part of it. You've got to understand who to connect with and actually understand then how do you qualify and nurture properly? How do you get people to the point where they're listening to you talking about the stuff that you really want to talk about and then introduce them to how they can work with you? My question to you all today is, are the people that you're connecting with, are they hungry for what you have to offer? If you put it in front of them, like, would they like bite your hand off for it? Or is it kind of, it's not really my thing. I'm not really on LinkedIn for that. And they end up pushing you away. Do you know how to create the desire? Do you know how to create the urgency when talking to prospects to get them excited around what it is that you're doing? Or do you find yourself talking to people that are there but just aren't listening? It's a really, really important question that you've got to answer, because there are loads of people out there and you've all got them in your network. If you think about your news feed and when you're scrolling down it, you will typically stop and engage with one piece of content after every 15 that you scroll past. Your job is to become the one in the 15 that everyone else stops on. But the problem is that's probably not happening if you're not generating enough leads for your own business right now. It was when I started to understand this that suddenly, yes, that follower number was important, but it wasn't a be all and end all, because my follower number wasn't directly correlated to how much money we were making. What was, though, was how fast my email list was growing. The bigger my email list has got, the more money we've made. And so my job and my primary focus is to turn as many of those 18,000, it's about 18,600 now, right? 18,600 followers I've got to people on my email list. Because when I do, you can suddenly see when I started with an email list of 100 people, we weren't making very much money. When it got to 500, 1,000, 2,000, 2,500, 10,000, 15,000, 20,000 of monthly recurring revenue was then built off the back of that, because we've got data. And these social media profiles, right, the platforms that you're spending hours on, they don't actually belong to you. I have 39,000 Instagram followers that I'm still using to generate business, right? I had that taken away and hacked from me a couple of years ago. I lost it for about a couple of weeks. I had no email addresses collected from that Instagram profile. I was a lunatic. So when I got it back, it was right, how do I turn all of those 39,000 people to email addresses? Because then I've got control. And with that then becomes like, you've got to have the right way of thinking to position your profiles in a way so people want to get your resources. That's where the magic then happens. And so with your audience, I want you to think about, like, who are the people that are hungry, want and need what you've got to offer? Like, who are they? What are they searching for on the internet? Like, what videos are they watching? Where are they spending their time? Because when you can start to figure that stuff out, you can start to position yourself in the right place to get their attention. That word attention is critical in all of this. And that's where your message then plays a part. Because if you're not saying the right things, you end up losing their attention. You say the right things, suddenly people keep coming back to all of your stuff. Like, your message needs to be crafted in a way that speaks directly to the person that you're trying to speak to. So, like, for me, whenever I'm trying to communicate, I'm trying to make sure that this information is 100% relevant to you watching this right now. If it's not, typically people leave. However, if you do feel like some of this stuff is resonating, it should be feeling like I'm talking directly to you and not to a huge audience. Most people, and again, let me know in this, let me know just with a thumbs up in the chat. Are you currently creating content? Let's say a minimum of 3 times a week right now. Are you creating content right now on LinkedIn? Give me a thumbs up, hand raise, whatever's easiest for you to do. Most people, again, are. They know it's important to do. However, their engagement doesn't grow. And therefore it feels like, again, they're banging their head against a brick wall because they're putting all this time in. It's like, well, people tell me to create content. But some people, you may have heard of him, a guy called Gary Vaynerchuk, will tell you, just create 100 pieces of content. Keep creating, keep creating. I sit here, it drives me mad because what most people create isn't what the platform wants. And therefore, it never gets the engagement that you need. And therefore, it is a total and utter waste of time. Instead, you need to go through an exercise. Think about who your ideal client avatar actually is. You've probably heard the word ideal client a million times if you've been in this marketing game for a little while. You know who they are, but what are they interacting with? When was the last time you clicked into their profile and went to see what they're specifically commenting on? You can do it. You've got access to the data. Go and spend the time looking at it. Then start, if you want their attention, create similar content to what they're engaging with, because you only need their attention to then build a relationship, to start a conversation, to generate a lead. This is just process. It's just understanding how to play that process right. Like I spend, like even this week with Thursday, right? I've probably had, with our own customers, I've had 20 odd calls. And with people that are booked in calls off the evergreen approach that we have, because you don't need to run these webinars live, by the way, you can run them once. And then from there, you drive people to the replays of them. We've had probably another 10 calls. We've around about 25 to 30 calls I must have had this week. The majority of them, I learn more about them in a 2-minute conversation than I do scrolling for 10 minutes on their social media news feeds. I see the best versions of them on Zoom, but I see the worst and most boring version of them on their LinkedIn profile. And that's why, like, when I sit there and I'm like, I have to be quite blunt with people about this, right? I sit there and I go, well, would you buy from you? Would you inquire if you saw the social media activity that's there? Would you? 99% of the time it's no. And therefore there's work to do on the profile. There's work to do on the content. There's work to do on the webinar. There's work to do on everything, because it's all of the tiny little details that matter. And this is where I think that most people are wasting so much opportunity. They're putting their time in the wrong places. And so when you're speaking, when you're communicating, think about, if you were your ideal client avatar, what would you need to hear to actually know, like, trust enough to be able to buy from you? That's sometimes not easy for you to see yourself, but one of the things that I offer, and it's coming up in a minute, I'll give you a chance to book in a call with me and I'll be able to talk to you about that. I'll explain to you how we figure that out. And for some people, I'll actually be able to give you the answer because your product and service might relate to me. And this is where, again, you need to take the opportunity to be able to do it, because it doesn't matter how boring your subject is, right? Nick Holt here, he trains people on SQL. So it's a coding language. And when it comes to selling that sort of thing, it's quite hard. But you can see there from what he said, when you suddenly get the language right, when you get the conversion mechanism in place, suddenly customers do come. It's not easy. I'm not here to say that you're just going to run a webinar and people buy from you, especially, you're not just going to run a webinar. People may buy from you once, but it's even harder than to get people buying from you consistently. You have to put the work in, right? But when you do that, that's where then the results become consistent. And so this is where you need to take a step back and you need to ask yourself the question, why should your ideal client avatar follow you? What is it that you do that will enable you to stand out online? What do you do from a personal point of view? What do you do from a business point of view? How are you getting more and more people to pay attention to you? I tell you what, it's a minority of people that do this well. I can still be so much better at this. Like, I have so many gaps that I'm not exploiting. I need to fill right now. The thing is I'm aware of what they are. I'm aware I'm not doing enough video content. I'm aware that I need to get my podcast up and running and link that back up to my YouTube channel. I know my email marketing strategy needs to be stronger because I'm just promoting webinars at the moment, and that's not good enough. If you want it to work, you have to add more value than that. Like, I know I could be doing more collaborations, but then I know if I then put all of that effort in, what effect it's then going to have on the overall statistics of the business, so the overall money that we then make. Because again, the data allows us to be able to work that out. If you don't know the answers to these questions, then find somebody that you can speak to that's going to be able to help you out, because this is, again, where people are struggling. Eric is one of the most followed people on LinkedIn in terms of fastest growth, and he was one of our customers about a year or so ago. We helped him with content strategy and kind of working at how he can stand out on platforms like Instagram and platforms like LinkedIn. His LinkedIn is blown up, right? He's absolutely nailed it. He's done everything right. He's spent time in the right places, and he's connected it to a place where he's collecting this data so he can convert. Go and check his profile out. It's gone from 15,000 followers to 300,000 followers. It's huge in terms of the growth, but it comes from him understanding why people should follow him. And the thing that I want to really reiterate here is that it's really easy to think that you need to have a big audience to do this. My partner, Zoe, you can see here, she has 880 followers on LinkedIn. I think that's about 900 now. Now, if you're not getting 10,000, 15,000, 20,000 impressions right now, it means that you're doing something wrong. Because if in an account that's got just under 900 followers can reach 133,000 people, then so can you. And those 133,000 people, when you're proactively building and you're out there and you're talking to people, that's where the results come in. That was the message that she dropped into our group with it. She'd only really just started using LinkedIn back then. She still needs to start using it a bit more when it comes to her stuff, right? However, when you do, it's amazing what happens. Messages start coming in when you start talking about the stuff that other people do care about, that the ideal clients do care about. It doesn't just have to be about your business. It could be about a multitude of different things. But when you've got the process then that sits behind it, that's where the opportunity comes. And this is what I really want to make clear. If you don't have a clear plan in place, a positioning plan is what we call it, but a plan in place that's going to take people from connection to customer right now, and you know the exact numbers you need to hit at the different phases, this is where you're missing out. You will end up, if you don't have one, right, you will struggle to build an engaged following. You may have an audience, but they won't engage with you. You'll be putting in hours for little to no reward, hoping that someone reaches out to you after 100 hours that you've put in, and end up just wasting so much time. You can see the gentleman on the right there, Matt Fletcher. You can see the reach that he's got on his as well. Matt's following has grown rapidly. But it's when you start connecting all of this up to a process that you'll end up sending in emails like that to us saying, I've taken on 18 new customers. Guess where they've come from? LinkedIn. All he's done is just, again, connect it to the process. He knows that if he can keep showing up, keep engaging, keep getting that content out there, he connects that then to a conversion mechanism. He then gets those messages coming through and he knows how to convert them. At the end of this session, I am going to be giving you the opportunity to talk to me in the same way that all those previous people have as well. And with it, we're going to talk through your own message and what changes you need to make to start building the right audience. We're going to review your process. And if you don't have one, we'll talk through the things that you should be putting in place so you can start making money from all of this time and effort that you're putting onto this platform right now. We'll then talk through your offer, because there's no point, again, you doing all of this stuff if your offer is no good. And then how do you get people to the point where they're chasing to buy from you? There's some point you will have it. When you get the right person in front of you, and let's say I'll send you an email with the details to sign up, as an example. If you don't send that email within a couple of hours, you want that person to be wanting it that much that they then chase you. That happens when you tick all of the right boxes. Now, I've got a few slots available. There's 15 of them in total. There are today, Monday, and Tuesday. We've got an event tomorrow that we're running, so they're not available tomorrow. If you want to book one in, the QR code is there for you to be able to scan if you want to talk through that stuff. And when they're gone, they're gone. I can't do anything about it. There will be other opportunities in the future to book in calls with me. But if you want to start talking about this stuff properly now, the QR code is there for you to be able to scan and go through. If that doesn't work, it's pipeline44.com/apply. Okay, now that QR code is also in the top right-hand corner. If you do want to go through and book it as well, it will be in there for the rest of the presentation. But when it comes to positioning, getting yourself in the right place to start attracting the right people, there's a couple of things on there that I want to really highlight. Number one is talking to your clients. So if you're in a position where you've got clients already, go and ask them the question, why they actually bought from you in the first place. What was the language that they use to be able to explain what it is that you do that caused them to buy from you, right? Go and have the conversations with them. The second thing then is being open to change. So most don't change their messaging frequently enough for me. I change my messaging at least a minimum every quarter, at least every quarter. It has to change slightly because the market changes. People's opinions change, people's beliefs change, and therefore you've got to make sure that you constantly reframe what you're doing. Does part one all make sense? Just give me a yes in the chat if it's made sense and it's kind of been useful for you. I mean, I do need a drink, which is the reason why I'm asking. However, just let me know if that's all clear to you. Amazing stuff. Good to hear. Great stuff. Okay, so the next thing then is process. So how do we connect your LinkedIn activity with sales opportunities? So my job today, I hope you kind of like me, but actually, if you don't, and all I do is tell you the truth, I hope that's okay, right? Kim, you've got hundreds. And again, let's re-engage and have that conversation. We'll show you how to grow that again. But I've always built a brand of myself that's always going to be honest, whether you want to hear it or not. And most people struggle to generate consistent sales on social because they lack control. They are guessing, they are hoping. We don't have any room for that. There's no point. It's a waste of time. If you're posting and then hoping, again, stop doing it. If you send messages and hope for a response, again, stop doing it. You typically, I'm guessing, think what you've got is good. Otherwise, you'd be doing something completely different, I hope. But the problem is not enough people know enough about it to buy it. Most people, if you explain it to them, if I actually got you onto a call now and went, right, tell me what it is that you sell. The default that I hear is, I help people achieve this. It's like, yeah, no, but what do you sell? Like, what is it? What's the product and service? And we end up 5 minutes trying to get clear on what it is. You need to understand to like be able to say it within 5 to 7 seconds what it is. What do we sell? We sell our social selling suite product that helps you generate more leads online. That's it. Like that's the product. That's what you're buying. A suite of tools that help you make more money online. Very, very simple. It's to the point. You need to have that to such a degree where it's like so obvious in terms of what you do. And what most people don't realize is that the time that they're spending just doesn't mean anything because that's wrong. And when I speak with people, it all comes down to the fact they lack the one thing that matters. And this is the thing that you can take a screenshot of right now. You've shown it to you earlier, but it's a process that actually like labels out what you need to be doing. So on the left-hand side there, you've got connection. That's what lots of you will be doing right now, I bet. Like you've got a LinkedIn profile, your network building, you may have a YouTube channel, you may be posting content, you may be like sending messages out, but it's not really going anywhere. What we have to do is lead you to a place where you can take control. Control is the most important phase. It's how do you move someone off of social media into your own ecosystem where the data sits. So we use lead magnets to do it. Now I have a couple of lead magnets that I give away. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to switch the chat so it's open to everyone. So you should now be able to chat with everybody. If you look in the chat box, you should be able to say hello to everyone. Right. So the lead magnets bit is the most important bit. I have a couple of lead magnets that I give away. Number one is a guide that's got 100 content ideas in it. So I give away, it's a free PDF that's got 100 content ideas in it. If you want that guide, just put 100 in the chat for me, and then one of my team will send it to you. It's got 100 content ideas. It's free. You can have it. The second thing we have then is a complete guide to social selling. So it's got the A to Z, it's got around it's 37 pages long. And from that, you can basically, you read it and you digest it practically. If you want that guide, just put guide in the chat for me as well. And again, we'll come to it. Now, what you all can't see, like with this, and I will screenshot it so you can all see it, right? But there are literally, I reckon, 50 or 60 messages already that have come through with 100 all guide in. You know, if you've put 100 all guide in, right? You know how you feel about it. If you don't get that reaction to your lead magnets right now, it's not that your lead magnets are being seen, it's that nobody wants them. So a lead magnet is something that you give away for free in exchange for an email address. And what you want is to whip up a frenzy of people that want them. I think of lead magnets also as like, what free tools that can I give away? I have another one, which I'm building at the moment, which is 1,000 headlines, 1,000 of the best headlines that I've ever seen on the internet. I save them. I have them in an Excel spreadsheet. I'm creating a PDF for that now that I'm also going to give away. Like, these are all things that I know people want and will chase me for. Like, most people will chase me for these if they don't get them. If you don't get that reaction to your free resources aren't good enough. And therefore, they're the things that need to change before anything else that you do online. Because if you can't build up your email list right now, you're going to struggle to do anything. And so control is crucially important. Following that, you can then move to conversion. So when you start to take control of your audience, you can then earn the right to introduce them to your services. The problem is most people introduce them too early. So they try to do it in a LinkedIn message, or they try to do it in content. Nobody wants to hear it. Nobody wants to see it. They probably already know somebody that does what you do, and therefore you're never going to earn the right. However, if you can get their attention like this, suddenly you start to get people that want to talk to you rather than you chasing to talk to them. And the best way to explain this to you, I don't know if Angie's on today, but is to show you. So Angie just recently earned the top voice thing on LinkedIn. Now we'll start to see what difference that makes right away, but she's built a nice audience for herself. The one thing that Angie didn't have was this webinar process in place, which again is something that again has made a big difference for her. She had elements of her LinkedIn strategy in place. She was building an audience well. She'd worked with other marketing people before. And I did the same 30-minute session that I've offered to you guys today with that QR code, right? But we took some time to review the process and then spotted the changes. And this is what we did. Angie, at that point in time, when we first started working together, had that. She had an email list in place, but it wasn't being built. But she had a LinkedIn profile, her network, and her messaging. That was what she was doing. She was waiting for people to come to her. And it was doing okay, but it was inconsistent, right? So what we did was we built out a plan to go, right, you can keep doing all of this stuff, but let's start talking about how we can get you into some rooms. We'll start looking at YouTube, but not immediately. We need to phase that in. And then we'll look at the email list and how we build it, what lead magnets we need to create. And then we'll look at the conversion mechanism to start driving all of this traffic that you've built up through. And that's what we all need to do. The process is the same for everybody that we work with. Now, you may not want to run a webinar, right? There's loads of different campaign choices that you can run. And again, a webinar is just one that lots of people choose because they like to do what we do. But you can see there, what we do was Angie goes through this process. She sends us her current presentation deck, and then we go through it and we amend it. We craft the message both online and in that webinar that needs to actually go into it to help us stand out. We then help her build it slide by slide. So when people come to it, people do actually stay engaged and listen to it. We then build out the email list. We give her the tactics. We help her create the lead magnets. We give her the ideas of what she needs to do to be able to whip up the frenzy to get people in. You need to do this. Write this down because these are the steps you need to take, whether you do it with us or you do it on your own. We then create an offering that you can give away to build the credibility and rapport. This is that offering. Like, I'm sharing with you the stuff that we do for free. If you come to work with us, great. If you don't, you're still going to take value from it. And then from that, we say this to everyone. You work with us, you remove everything else, and then you focus in on this process and 100% commit to it. If you do that, you then get our support where you can see the level of feedback that we see, that what we give. So you can see here, I watch everything. Same with the team. Every minute, 60-minute, 50-ish. I'm being picky. But you say, let me move to the next slide. Try to consciously not do this. Just click through. It's the tiny details that matter when it comes to keeping people engaged for a prolonged period of time to then get to sell to them. And when you do, from following that process, you can see the results. She did a webinar. She got 329 registered on Zoom, 201 dialed in. She got 26 leads in total from that, right? When you get that converting process in place, from there, she's done all of the hard work. She can now repeat that. She can set the next date. She can use the replay to drive people to. From those 26 calls, she got, I think it was actually 17 calls. She said 17 calls booked in and 9 to chase. So from those 17 calls, she got 11 grand in sales, which wasn't bad, right? But it was predictable. We could do that again. We were then able to also set the date for a next workshop, and we knew exactly what she needed to improve on for the next one. So again, this was the feedback that we then gave for that one. And you can see here, like as you go through, the big thing for me is to make the pitch objective-led. Use language like, when you join this program, you will achieve X by this time frame. Like the language that people use, it's like we get quite nitpicky because it all matters. And then when she ran the next one, she had another 3 signups come through. 203 registered, 111 showed up, 18 calls, 3 signups. We then have to look at the conversion process, because throughout that, what she noticed was that she wasn't converting a minimum of 20% off the back of those calls. And so we had to look at the way that she was running those sales calls and those strategy calls. Were they the right people? There's loads of different things to look at that we break down and we go through. And it's not a one-off. Like you can see here as we go through, like the amount of people that publish saying, again, this is 2 spots taken, money generated, $8,000 coming through. You just need the process in place. You've got the audience, a lot of you. You just need the process in place. Ran my first webinar, 85 registered, 26 turned up. I made a total rookie error by getting my own diary link wrong. Got 7 breakthrough calls booked though. 2 clients signed up. The same thing here as we're going through. It's relentless. And what we do is every Monday and Thursday, we then get together as a group and then we talk about what's working and what isn't. And so with the process part, it's just about understanding. I've shown you what steps you need to put in place, right? Email list if you've not got it, lead magnet if you've not got it, conversion mechanism if you've not got it. And again, they're there for you. I'm not going to read these out, but the big thing, they're the bottom two. Don't guess your way to success. When you get it right, the numbers will dictate what changes you need to make. So to give you an idea, from the LinkedIn event, I will get 30% conversion. Let's go worst case, 30% conversion, right? So if I get 1,000 people to say yes to the LinkedIn event, typically that means 300 people will sign up to Zoom. From the 300 people that sign up to Zoom, 50% of those will show up. So that's the target, 50% of them. So from that 300, we get 150 of them show up. From there, you should be expecting a minimum of 10% of them to book a call. So that gives you 15 calls. As you can see from Angie's stats, that's what we did, 15 calls. And then from there, you want to be converting between 5 to 10 of them minimum. That's why this becomes predictable, because we know at the front end what numbers we need to hit. And then from there, once you know the numbers, then it's about how you then present. So how do you then create those sales opportunities? Because it's all well and good building an audience and then bringing them to an event. But then how do you generate the sales? It's probably a big question that I'm going to answer. You can see with what we did for Ashley here, like he went through the training video, he got his webinar created in that respect. And he went through a bit of a realization process that most people think that these workshops are just about filling them with loads of value. They're not. What you need to do is structure them to help people realize the need to work with you so you can help them solve the problem. And this starts with understanding where your audience is at this current point in time. So what are their immediate big struggles that they really need to sort out if they want to get the result that you're selling? The questions that I look to answer are, what are they moaning about? Well, like, what are they banging their head against a brick wall about? What do they want and what do they need? When you then get that right, you can see there from that webinar, 21 members in my mentoring team, upsold the 6K package to a 30. Ashley is absolutely blown up his training business from it. But again, with that, it's just the process, right? He now runs trainings in rooms. He talks publicly to people. He has a great LinkedIn account. He has all these different traffic sources. He's now looking to go to the next phase. Our webinar structure, as you've seen today, right, is split into 3 key sections. First, you need to highlight the importance of the subject you're talking about. So do you remember, I explained at the beginning why webinars are important. Just give me a yes in the chat if you remember me saying that. This is why webinars are important in 2024. Let me know if I'm not going mad. I'm sure I mentioned it. A few people saying yes, right? Second, you then need to highlight the big problem your audience is facing. What's holding them back from success? There's 2 things I've spoken about, right, so far. Your positioning and your process. They're the 2 big problems most people are having right now. I know that because I speak to them. I then highlight what are they missing and what are they doing that's ineffective. Ineffectiveness is using social and hoping. What's missing is a proper plan in place and a proper process with the right presentation that's going to work. Positioning, process, presentation. I'm highlighting it all. I'm using the structure. And then from there, you then present the solution that's going to solve the problem. So if they're the things that you believe that you're missing, the solution is coming, right? Then you present it because people want to know what it is. And then when you get it right, that's where the sales come flooding in. And again, you can see from the messages as people come through, right? The money comes when you start saying the right things. That's why I say your message is so important. And so on those calls that I'm going to be having with you, I'm going to be looking at where the gaps are and be pointing them out, highlighting them and go, right, this is what you need to do. This is the time frame you need to do it in. And this is how we hold you accountable to do it. That's the whole point of these calls as we work together. And this is a perfect example of when you get it right. I send my messages out, like lots of you said that you do, your direct messaging, right? I send mine out. They typically get ignored. I actually look to push people away. I go, don't talk to me. I don't want a conversation. I'm too busy. However, if social media is something that you struggle with, here's a link. Give that a watch. You'll see what we're talking about. That got completely ignored, right? February the 6th. Then you can see this is around about 35 days later. Can you tell me a little bit more about the Social Selling Academy? You advertise in your profile. Of course I can. Not a problem. This was done then 3 hours later. Just saw your message. What's the best email and number to get you on? Sounds good. If you're free now, you can get me on this. The training video sounds good. I have the conversation with her, But then I don't have to convince or persuade. I just go, look, here's the video. Watch the video. It explains everything that we do. And then bang, love the webinar, signed up. If I didn't have that process in place, I would have probably had to chase 3 weeks later to see what she was up to. The workshop drives scarcity, it drives urgency. It also showcases really clearly what it is that we do and how we help and what the expectations are. That's why people find it easy to make decisions to work with us. What you need to do is do the same thing if you want it to work. And so there's some big pieces of advice that I gave a couple of weeks ago to the Academy group that I'm going to share with you. This is a comment from James Kemp that you can see here. The amount of time that I spend talking to you, the amount of time my team spend talking to you, we will tell you what you need to say. Like if you're struggling, we will give it to you. And with that, we spent 15 minutes. And then the next meeting I had with James, I actually showed him and spoke to him about how I would sell his products, which he recorded and then used. But some big pieces of advice here are the moment you tell is the moment you'll never sell. You'll notice everything that I'm doing, I'm sharing from my own experience. I'm not dictating you to do this stuff. If you want to do it, do it. I'm sharing with you what works for us, what works for our customers, so you can then go and do your own, like have your own go at it. Focus your message on the mistakes and then shine a light on those mistakes. So get a list down, get a piece of paper out and write down every mistake that people make that you know that you want to work with. And then in your workshops and in your content, just shine a light on those mistakes by talking about a story about how you overcome that mistake. If someone resonates with, let's just say people are posting and hoping, that's a mistake. I will then go, right, this is what my headline will be. The moment I stopped posting and hoping was the moment my business changed. That would be my headline. For people that actually have that problem, they will be drawn into that. And then I share my experience as we go through. That's the power. It's not about packing loads of information in. Your job of your webinar is to help people realize that they need to work with you. And so you've got to take them onto the journey to show them what they're missing, what they're doing that's ineffective, and then what the answer is. And so with that, if you want to start generating that consistent flow of leads into your business, right, it's not about how much time you're putting into social. It's not about the hundreds of pieces of content. What you need is that process in place that effectively nurtures people. You then need the promotion plan in place, which again is something I'm going to be talking to people about on those calls to generate new traffic consistently. Social selling is what we're about. We know it's not easy. Otherwise, you would be seeing results from it already. It takes effort and lots of testing to get it right, but it's also in the tiny details. The difference from saying, I help X coach do this, or I help this person do this, to I've helped 50 people lose 2 stone in 2 weeks. Like, even I know it sounds ridiculous, right? But that tiny little sentence change suddenly goes from I hope to help to I've helped. And from a positioning point of view, that has such a much more power in the language that you're using. More people will come to you if you're more direct. And so what I want to offer you today is a chance to work with us. So again, we'll be discussing this on the call as well. But the social selling suite is what we sell, right? It's our solution. It includes the 4 things that most people are missing. Number 1 is training on how to do social media and how to actually sell on social media, right? That's the training. There's lots of modules to watch. We will tell you what to watch and when, so you're not wasting time. We will then mentor you as we go through, right? So we will keep you accountable. We set you deadlines to get work done. We have calls in place to check in with you to make sure that you're doing it. And with that, there are roadmaps for you to follow that are going to drive you through the process. If you join us, there are 0 excuses. Like, we will be ringing you if you don't do the work to see where you are and what you're doing. Some people don't like that. That's totally fine. But for us, it's about not just about training, but it's about doing it. As I said, we will then mentor you. So we do 2 live weekly sessions and we review all of the work that you do. So your profiles, your content, your messages, your webinars, your landing pages, your emails, anything that contributes to selling online, we will review what you do and tell you what you need to change and why you need to change it. We then have technology that supports it. So this month we are launching that technology, which I'll share with you in a second. The Social Selling Academy, which is the training, helps you build out this webinar process. So step by step, we have 6 phases that we go through, from clarity to connection, to content, to control, to conversion and close. We teach you how to build out your traffic sources. So not just the process, but we teach you how to use LinkedIn properly, how to use YouTube properly, how to use Facebook and Instagram. You won't want to use them all, right? If you do, great. If you don't, we pick 1 or 2 to hammer down so you do it properly. We then have a training video for everything that you need. So we've broken down each of those phases into checklists and roadmaps for you to work through. We review this content regularly. I've just spent a couple of hours recording this morning some new modules for this. I'm continuously updating because social media changes. That's the sort of checklist that we work through. So we keep control of this. You don't move to the next step until we've reviewed the work that you've done, checked it off, and made sure that it was right. We hold you accountable in our community. So at every step of the roadmap, there is a deadline set. So you need to meet the deadlines. You simply submit your work to us. We will review it for you. And if we don't hear, I did say we will be chasing you. You are simply following the process that I do every day, as mentioned before. So there's no room for excuses. The feedback that you get is in depth, right? The mentoring every Monday at 12 p.m., every Thursday at 2 p.m., they're all recorded. You also have check-in calls with us on a one-to-one basis with the team. We will challenge you. We will push you outside your comfort zone. And we will get you working at the levels required for this to work. I'm relentless with this stuff. My team are relentless with this stuff. We're all practicing it every single day. And therefore, if you just join in, you'll see the same results. The technology is something that we've now included in. So many people spend thousands of pounds a year on landing page software, email marketing software. We have built a tool that facilitates all of this for you, and we will teach you how to use it as well. So you can see there, you've got the lead magnets page on the right-hand side. That shows me how many people have downloaded the 100 content ideas. We do the link tracking so we know where it's come from. So there's no more stressing about how to use these things. We've done it in such a simple way. And if you ever get stuck, you just message us and we'll show you what you need to do. So again, we handhold through that as well. So today's offer is a 12-month social selling suite experience. So you get to work with us for the year. I don't work with people short term. My team don't. Like, this is, again, a massive change in the way that people run their businesses. Like, we work with people for 2-3 years. It's not just a couple of months. You get access to all the feedback. You get the one-to-one and accountability check-in calls. You get access to all the technology, the weekly mentoring calls, and you also get all of our templates. So everything that we do and teach is templated. So with your webinars, we have a 7-question template that will tell you what you need to go into your workshop. We then review it, customize it a little bit, and get it back to you so you can build out your PowerPoint. We then also have the LinkedIn and Sales Navigator training program, which we're adding on, and you get included as well. I'm not going to do it like a big price reveal. It's £250 plus VAT per month to work with us. We have made it accessible to everybody. Most people pay that just for their software these days. We're doing that, including all the training, all the mentoring, all the support as well as access to the technology. You also get access to all of our in-person workshops. So this is last minute, I know, for you. We're running our first workshop tomorrow. So we get people in a room like this together. We're running our first one in Leeds, but we run them all over the country. And we focus, like, it's a bit more like a mastermind type environment. So we get together as a community, we work out what people need, and then we go for some food and drinks afterwards as well. You get those included with your membership. And you also then get a proper 30-minute strategy session with me. So we will map out the things that you need to change. It's a very, very intense 30 minutes. It sometimes goes over. And with that, we're going to try and do those in January now. So from February, you're like absolutely flying through. I've opened up 10 spots for those clarity calls. So it'll be for the first 10 of you that join us. They don't normally go, right? I'll be honest with you. We normally get 7 or 8 of them that disappear like that on the same day. So you should get your spot. So just to summarize all that for you, it's all there. It's all for 250 quid a month. There's no catch. It's just there for you. If you want to speak about it, the QR code is there for you to be able to book in. I have 15 slots available. I know some of you have booked in those calls already. I have no idea how many are left. That date is wrong on there. So what I will do, I will come back to that page there for you so you have got it. What I'm now going to do, I am 4 minutes early, which is great. Did everything make sense there? I know I've gone through it quite quickly. Did everything make sense there? Just give me a yes if that has and it's been helpful for you. Just curious to see. Good stuff. A few hands being raised as well. Good stuff. Look forward to speaking to you as well. That's excellent. Amazing. So let me just quickly go through the Q&A section. Clinton has asked, should we delete contacts in LinkedIn if they are not good enough targets? I wouldn't bother deleting them. It's not that big of a deal. I just would just leave them there as normal. I wouldn't delete them at all because you never know when they may become relevant. I've not actually had that many questions in today, which is fine. Kim has mentioned I've had people attend my masterclasses and was offering a talk with me. No one took me up on it, but I did have follow-up 3 emails and then into my newsletter. I could ring them afterwards. Yeah, lots of people, when they give away lead magnets or webinars, they don't follow up. It's one of the big parts of our process, right, which is all around closing. It's about following people up to see if they actually really understood what it was that you did. Very, very simple to do, but lots of people don't do it. They just forget. And that's something that we're about. It's holding people accountable to do that. So I won't hold you here for longer than you all need to be. I hope that's been helpful for you.